Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com and welcome to episode 6 of 12 in my 12-week Christmas countdown series. I'm continuing in the vein of making quick, simple cards this Christmas because with less layers it's more economical to pop it in the post, especially if you're sending it overseas. So today's card features the Santas from this pack of DSP. DSP stands for Designer Series Paper, and it's an online exclusive. It's called Traditions of St. Nick, and they're 12 by 12 inch sheets or 30.5 by 30.5 centimeters, and there are 2 each of 6 double-sided designs. I'm using the St. Nicholas bundle, so this is the stamp set and these are the dies. I did a 101 on this in my Top Tip Tuesday slot on my YouTube channel. And these are the 2 Santa dies, which will cut out the Santas from this sheet of Designer Series paper in the online exclusive Traditions of St. Nick Designer Series paper. So this one will cut out the Santa with a tree, and this will cut out the Santa with the parcels. So out of that one sheet of Designer Series paper, you can get 5 Santas with the presents and 5 Santas holding the tree and his sack behind his back. And then these 3 you have to fussy cut. I'll leave this one out because we're going to be using it, and I will show you the other card ideas at the end of this video. I didn't discard the rest of the trees, I actually fussy cut them to decorate the inside of the card. Some of the trees are joined up, some are at the end of the pages that you can still use, and most of them are single or small trees, and just a couple that have been joined together. The other dies I used is also an online exclusive, and it's called the Radiating Stitches dies. This is the card we're making today, so I'm using this frame to cut matte layer in Mossy Meadow. So the card is shorter because this measures 5 1/4 by 3 7/8. So I've cut my card base at 5 1/2 by 8 1/4, and that's 14 centimeters by 21 centimeters. And for the inside of the card you need a basic white layer that measures 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So in metric that will be 13.3 by 9.5 centimeters. Need Versamark ink and the Embossing Additions toolkit. The Christmas Tidings embossing folder. This is a standard embossing folder, so you just need an ordinary sandwich, and you use 2 platform 3s. You need Mossy Meadow ink and a blending brush, and you also need Tuxedo Black Memento ink and a scrap of basic white to stamp the letterbox, and the Real Red Stamping Blends combo. First we're going to die cut our frame with the largest of the Radiating Stitches dies, and I'll do that off camera. Your cutting sandwich is platform 1, the thin die adapter, followed by the base platform 3, your cardstock die with cutting edge face down, and then a second platform 3. I'm going to glue this onto my card base. I'm putting it in the center of the card away from the frame because the glue might seep through. Next, I've still got my Stamparatus, so I'm going to use that to line up my sentiment, and I'm going to white emboss the sentiment. sprinkle that with white embossing powder, tap off the excess, and then heat set it with a heat tool. Don't hold it over the embossing powder for too long, otherwise it will go dull. As soon as you see it turn and puff up, then move your heat tool to another area. I've already stamped and die cut the letterbox, so now I just need to colour it. Speed this up. I'll just use the darker shade of stamping blend on the shaded areas. Because the image is so tiny, there's not much to do. I'll start with the light and then I'll shade with the darker one. Now I've prepped my letterbox, I'm going to glue the Santa holding the wreath down, and there's no dimensionals. I'm just going to glue him straight onto the cardstock, like so. I'm going to pop some dimensionals on the back of the letterbox just to raise it up a little bit. Then pop it along here, sort of in line with his feet and in the middle of that sentiment. And to do the inside, I'm simply going to pop the cardstock in so that it encompasses the word festive down here, and shut it like that. Make sure it's straight. Now with embossing folders, I actually have dedicated plates that is only for embossing. So I'm going to put platform 1, the base embossing plate. Now this is too wide to go in like this because I'm only partially embossing, so I'm going to have to make sure that's straight. I'm going to anchor the paper. This is special low-tack tape, so it shouldn't ruck up the paper. And I'm going to put the embossing folder on its side like so. I know that's a no-no. Stampin' Up doesn't recommend it, but if you make sure you're away from the edge, there should be a gap in the machine because the machine's platform is wider than 6 inches. You have to be very careful, okay? And then make sure it's free from the edges, and then might be a little stiff, so that hasn't damaged the edge. It's not recommended, but sometimes needs must. So that's how you partially emboss. You can leave it like this plain, but if you want to make that pop, then I suggest you use a blending brush and some Mossy Meadow ink to coordinate with the matte layer on the front of the card. I forgot to press record. Ink up the brush, tap off the excess, and start from the outside toward the centre like so, so that you don't get splotches of colour on the inside of the card. Apply adhesive and then glue it to the inside of your card. So using the same set of dies and the same embossing folder, I made this card. Now this is the Santa with the tree, so I used a Mossy Meadow base, a normal sized one. The matte layer is 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, and I cut the vellum layer 3 by 5. Then I use these 2 dies and nestled them together and cut a frame to put on here so that you could still see the embossing on the other side of this vellum. And I used the remainder of this inside and embossed it in white. So I stamped that Many Merry Thoughts and Wishes on here and cut a little strip, and then I just used the cut piece from the DSP to decorate the inside. So for the red Santa, I white embossed this sentiment, and I also die cut the chimney, which is this die here, this die, and the snow. So I cut one top of the chimney and two ground ones to go across so that Santa's standing behind the snow. And then for the inside, I just glued one of the DSP trees. So those are 2 extra ideas on how to use the DSP die cut Santas. It saves you colouring them, because you can colour the same images from the stamp set. But this is a shortcut if you're making multiple cards. So I hope you've enjoyed episode 6 of 12 with this St. Nicholas Traditions of St. Nick DSP papers. Thanks for watching. Bye.